NoSQL database. So these three custom methods we have created. That's fully saved in MongoDB.
Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to Think Constructive. I am Isha. In this session, I will be building a Spring Boot and MongoDB project. So this session is going to be very helpful for all the Java developers, Java leads and Java architects. So stay tuned, watch the session till the end. Yes, and one more thing, I would highly recommend keep your machines ready and code along with me, because that is where you are going to be extremely beneficial from this session. Alright, so let us start with the brief introduction of Spring Boot and MongoDB, which will be followed by the complete demonstration. Alright, so let us quickly start with the session now.
So what is MongoDB? MongoDB is a database. More specifically, it's a NoSQL database. We also call it document database, which is designed for ease of application, development and scaling. So scaling is very important here, and it's very easy, straightforward to use MongoDB because it is schema-less. So there is no restriction for storing the details in the database. Some other key features of MongoDB are its high performance database. It also supports high availability. It supports horizontal scalability, which makes MongoDB highly scalable. Alright, and it also supports multiple storage engines. Alright, so let us have a quick look on some of the key features of Spring Boot. Spring Boot is very popular among Java developers because it helps application developers to create standalone Spring applications. Why Spring Boot is so popular? Because it gives a complete package to application developer to create Spring applications. How? Because application servers comes embedded in the Spring Boot applications, and those supported servers are Tomcat, Jetty or Undertow. It provides starter dependencies. It also supports auto configuration of Spring and other third-party libraries. It provides production ready features and no as such XML configuration and no code generation. So it's pretty straightforward to develop applications using Spring Boot. Alright, let us now quickly understand the project architecture which we will be developing. Alright, so this is the typical 3-layer architecture which we will be developing. So we'll be developing one controller layer, and then business or service layer, and then database or repository layer. So controller layer is responsible to talk to the external or internal world, and it will be talking using REST APIs because we are developing a project for REST API. So we will be exposing REST APIs using controller layer. Alright, so controller layer will be accepting request from laptop, mobile or any other device, any other client which is capable to send REST API request. Alright, so controller layer will be accepting REST API request. It will be further processing and sending the request to business or service layer. Business or service layer will be doing some logical processing if needed, and then for the database related activities, business layer will be sending request further to database or repository layer. Database layer will be talking to the database because this is the layer which is specifically talking to the database. So database or repository layer will be talking to database. In our case, the database, what we are using is MongoDB. MongoDB will be fetching, creating, deleting or updating the data, whatever kind of request we are sending, and sending the response back to the database or repository layer. Repository layer will be sending the response back to business or service layer. If needed, business or service layer will be doing further logical processing and then will be returning response back to the controller layer. Controller layer will be further sending response back to the client. Alright, in between you can see DTO and entity. So DTOs are data transfer objects. So this is one pattern which is being used here for sending and receiving the data. So data which will be received at the controller layer and will be sent back to the client will be in terms of DTOs, not the exact entity which we are retrieving from the database. So that particular database entity will be converted to the data transfer objects and that will be sent back to the client. All right. And similarly, the entity you are seeing here, so entity is the exact entity what we are sending and receiving from the database. Further, that entity will be getting converted to DTO at the business or service layer, will be sent back to controller layer, and controller layer will be sending data transfer objects back to the client. All right, so I hope this project architecture is very clear to all of you. If you have any doubts, you can ask your doubts in the comment section. All right, so let us have a quick look on what we will be building using this architecture. So here is an online bookstore which we will be building using this project architecture. So in this online bookstore, what I have showed here right now is the books entity. So we will be creating this books entity with the given field here, and on this books entity we will be creating the complete CRUD operations which will be taking place using Spring Boot and MongoDB. So now let us quickly start with the project development. So get your machines ready and open the editors of your choice. I am going to use IntelliJ IDE editor. You can use any Java editor of your choice. Alright, so let us quickly start with the demonstration now. So let us quickly bootstrap the Spring Boot application with the help of a Spring Initializr. So here is the Spring Initializr. Here we will choose language as Java. By default it is selected. Project Maven we will be building. So we will be using Maven as a build tool. The Spring Boot latest stable version is 3.4.1. So this is what we'll be using. Okay. And in project metadata we can write com.think constructive. Okay. So here in artifact we will write books store. Okay, and in description we will write books store project. That's it. Oh, my bad. So we'll just say books store project. All right. So here you can see package name com.thinkconstructive.books.store is created using this group and artifact ID. All right. Packaging method we will be using as jar, and Java let us use the latest version which is 23. All right. So now we will include dependencies which we will be needing in our project. So the first dependency for building REST API we will be using Spring Web. Okay, you can see build web including RESTful applications using Spring MVC. Okay, then we will say add dependencies. Then we will again say add dependencies. What next I'll be using? I'll be saying MongoDB because we will be using MongoDB database. So we should include MongoDB dependency here, Spring Data MongoDB. All right. Then we will be including DevTools dependency because for every change I don't want to restart my project every now and then. So for the development convenience I am using Spring Boot DevTools here. All right. One more dependency I'll be using here which is Docker because Docker Compose support is now available in Spring Boot. So with the help of Docker Compose support I'll be directly able to use MongoDB without specifically installing MongoDB at my system. Okay, so stay tuned, just see what I'm doing and how I'm going to use Docker along with MongoDB here. Alright, so these 4 essential dependencies I have included and I will quickly say generate. The moment I will say generate, it will download bookstore.zip at my system. So next step, I need to unzip this and open this project in the IntelliJ IDE editor. So as I said, I am using IntelliJ IDE editor which is provided by JetBrains. You can use any other Java editor of your choice. You can use Eclipse or Spring Toolsuite, whichever you are comfortable with. Alright, here I have extracted bookstore and opened it in IntelliJ IDE editor. So first of all, let me just do a little refactoring for this bookstore name to bookstore. Okay, yeah, so here it is. I will just change its name. Okay, I'll make it bookstore. That looks better. Okay, and here are the files. So I have changed the folder name, and now I will have to reopen it. Okay, because now there is no more bookstore, so it's not recognizing the project. So it's opening bookstore now. Okay, yeah. So inside this, I will just open pom.xml and do the necessary changes quickly. So artifact ID I will change to bookstore, and name as bookstore and description as bookstore. All right, I will save it and we'll go inside src folder and we'll check what name changes we should be doing here. So first of all, I will change the package name. I will just do a little refactoring here also. And instead of books store, I will change it to bookstore. All right. Do refactor, and this bookstore application, instead of this, I will make it bookstore. All right. Yeah. All right, so I have done the necessary changes, refactoring changes. Here is the pom.xml, and let us see what all we have got in this. So we have got Spring Boot starter parent with the Spring Boot version as 3.4.1, which is the latest stable version of Spring Boot. Our group ID, artifact ID, whatever we have given. All right, and the name and description. Along with that, let us have a quick look on Java version and dependency. So Java version we have got as 23, and dependencies. So we have included 4 dependencies. One was MongoDB, so Spring Boot starter data Mongo. All right. Spring Boot starter web dependency for REST API development. Spring Boot dev tools, because I just wanted to make developers' life easy from again and again restarting the application. I wanted to avoid that, so I have included dev tools. And one more we have included Spring Boot Docker Compose. All right. Along with that, whenever you bootstrap any Spring Boot project, you will automatically get a Spring Boot starter test. Okay, and a Spring Boot starter parent. Okay. So as I said that I'm not going to install MongoDB to my system. Rather, what I'll be doing, I will be having Docker Compose, and that will help me to get the MongoDB image up and running at my system. That means, first of all, your system should have Docker installed. All right, because anyways, being a developer, you should always have Docker at your machines. All right. If you don't know what Docker is, and you would like to learn and install Docker at your machine and do some basic stuffs at Docker, so there is a session already available on the channel. Details of the sessions are getting displayed on the screen. Link for the session is tagged in the above card section as well as in the description box below. So please go ahead, watch the Docker session and make Docker up and running at your system. All right. So for now, I'm assuming that you have Docker at your system. If you don't have, go ahead and have it at your system, because with the help of Docker, we will have MongoDB image at our system. All right. And it is not restricted to MongoDB. Whichever image you would want, you can quickly get that with Docker and make that thing up and running at your system. All right. So Docker will make your life easier as a developer. That is where I'm recommending have Docker at your system. All right. Next step is Spring Boot starter data MongoDB. So this dependency will help your Spring Boot application to get connected with the MongoDB. All right. And Spring Boot starter web, as I said, this dependency you will need to build REST API. All right. I also have a DevTools session available on my channel. So if you would like to learn more about it, go ahead, watch the session. Details are getting displayed on the screen. All right. So now you have understood pom.xml. Let us see compose.xml. This is one new file you must be seeing. Compose.yaml will be included when you will include Docker dependency in pom.xml. So we have seen we have included Docker dependency in order to get MongoDB latest image. So you will automatically get compose.yaml, and the beautiful part is it has seen that you are trying to include MongoDB dependency also in your application. So it has already configured MongoDB image and the relevant details in compose.xml. Alright, so that is where it's going to be very helpful. So it's giving you services tab because this is what it is understanding you would like to include. You will give MongoDB image as Mongo latest, and then the environment details, and then the ports it will be listening to. Alright, so I hope compose.xml is also clear to everyone. So now let us bring up the application and see if everything is working fine or not. Like as a basic application is coming up and running or not. Alright, let us bring up our bookstore application. It is annotated with the Spring Boot application, which is the kickstart or the starter point for any Spring Boot application. Alright, so let me just go ahead and say run bookstore application. And let us see what is happening. What is it saying? It's throwing an error. Docker is not running. Since we have included Docker dependency in our application, so the prerequisite is Docker should be up and running. Without that, this application will not come up. Alright, so let me just go ahead and bring up the Docker. So what do? I will just say Docker. Since it is installed at my machine, so it should come up. So now Docker is up and running at my system. Okay. So now let me again retry and try to bring up the application. Let's see what happens. I will say run bookstore application, and you can see here in the logs, started bookstore application, Tomcat server started at port 8080. So at port 8080, now my application is up and running. Alright. Along with that, you can see Mongo client with some metadata is also up. So that means my MongoDB is also up and running. And here you can see container related information, that container got created, started, waiting and healthy. So all those relevant information is captured here, and then my app server is up and application is up and running. Alright, so now let us again check the Docker and see whether MongoDB is there or not. So in compose.xml, MongoDB image as Mongo latest is given. So let us see whether in the Docker we are able to see this image or not. Alright. So here in the Docker, you can see my bookstore application. You can see the green sign, it is active, and bookstore MongoDB 1, the image is here. And so you can see here bookstore MongoDB 1, and here Mongo latest image is picked up. This is what is given in compose.yaml file. Okay, so let us come back to the application. So my application is up and running with all the basics things in place. So my application is up and running. Now let us quickly check whether the application is really listening to port 8080 or not. Alright. So here what will I do? I will just say local host :8080 enter. And what it is saying, we are getting an error page here, but that doesn't mean this application is not listening to anything. It is listening to port 8080, but since we have not exposed any endpoint as of now, so it's saying it doesn't get anything there. So let us quickly bring down the application. Okay, and let's check one more thing. Now when I will refresh, so now what it says, the site can't be reached. That means it doesn't listen anything now to port 8080, while in the earlier case it was able to listen to port 8080 but was not able to get anything. Now the next step is the controller layer. So this layer will start building. Alright. So let us start building the controller layer. I'll just say new Java class controller dot, let's say I'll say book controller. Okay, so I'll just hit enter, and since I know this is my controller layer, so I will annotate it with REST controller. Okay, so REST controller will indicate Spring Boot that this layer is a controller layer and is responsible to expose all the CRUD operations, all the REST APIs. All right, let me also give the request mapping. Okay, and we'll give the path, context path for the application. All right, so let's say I will just give book store. Okay, this is what we are building. Okay, so I will just say bookstore. All right, so now inside the REST controller I will start writing all CRUD operations. Okay, so for now, first of all, I will be writing the CRUD operations with the mocked response, and then we will be building our database and service layer, and then we will come back and refactor our book controller class. So let me first of all start writing the get request. I will just say public. Let me for now just return response entity with string data type. All right, and I will then say get book. Okay, so and for now I will just get the book by book ID. Okay, so for book ID I will just say string book ID. All right, and then what will I do? I will just say return response entity we are returning, so I need to create a response entity object. So I will just say response entity, and inside this I will just say book found. All right, and probably if you want more clarity, you can also concatenate book ID here. So I will just say plus book ID. All right, and here we need to send HTTP status code. Okay, so for success, what status code do we have? HTTP status dot OK. Fine. And since we are building this get book method and trying to find the book by book ID, so this book ID we should be getting from either from the request URL or from the query parameter. All right, so let's say I am taking it from the request URL. Okay, and this is a get request, so I will be just exposing get mapping. Okay, and herein I will give slash inside curly braces book ID. Okay, and this method argument I will be annotating as path variable. Okay, so in the request URL, whatever ID will be coming will be taken by this book ID because of this path variable annotation, and then book ID will be captured here. Okay, so I'm reiterating, I'm creating the mocked structure of controller layer right now. I am just going to expose all the APIs what I need, and then going forward we will come back after building our database and service layer. We will come back and refactor this layer. All right, so next step, this one method we have written to get book by ID. I also want to get all the books. Okay, whatever books are available in my database, I just want to get them all. So how do I write a method for that? I will just say public response entity list. Okay, list of strings. For now I am just going ahead with the string. Okay, get all books. All right, since I am going to get all the books, so no need to pass any specific ID or something. I will just say return. Okay, new response entity. Okay, and what it should be returning? It should be returning the list. So one method is I will just build a mock list here and will return that. Okay, so I will just say list of books. Okay, and then new array list, and yes, I should be writing its data type also. Okay, and in this books list, I should add some books, okay, which should be returned. Okay, so let's say I will just say Java book, and then I will say books dot add, and then say MongoDB book. All right, and then let's say I will say books dot add, and then Spring Boot. All right, so let's say I think that's enough for the checking purpose. So 3 books we have added, and I will now pass this books list and then success HTTP status code. All right, I'll just say okay. Fine. So what we have done, we have written get all books method, and I need to now write some annotation to tell that I'm going to expose this method as a REST API, more specifically as get REST API. So in the URI, no need to pass any specific ID or something. It will just say / All right. So the moment this will be this request will be triggered, all books data will be displayed. Okay, now let us start creating some books. Okay, that means I should be writing a create method for that, and create should be returning, let's say again, response entity with some string response as of now. Okay, and I will say create books. Okay, and in the create books, a complete book value should come, right? So for now I'm just taking a string book. Okay, so for now we will just take a string book and will return the response. Okay, so return new response entity. Okay, and we'll just give a message called book created. All right, and then HTTP status code as okay. Cool. Yeah, and we should expose this create method with the help of post mapping. All right, so post mapping is the annotation for exposing the create APIs. Okay, so inside this I will just give /. Now let us expose one more method with response entity and response as a string, and we'll be exposing, first of all, writing update method. Okay, update book. Okay, so in update book, let's say I just want to receive book details with which we should be updating it. Okay, so I will just say a string book, and inside this I will say return new response entity. Okay, and what we should be returning, a message book updated. All right, and then HTTP status dot okay. Fine. And for update, what annotation we should be using is put mapping. Okay, because these get, put, post, delete, all these are standard HTTP methods. So accordingly, their annotations are built in a Spring Boot, and those annotations I'm using here directly. All right, and then one more method I would like to expose, that is delete. Okay, so first of all, I will be writing the method public. For deletion, I just would like to return a response. Okay, delete book. All right, and then let's say I would like to delete it by book ID, so I should be giving a book ID here. All right, and likewise, if you go up and see in the get method how I took the ID from the path, in the URI the ID was coming, and with the help of path variable annotation we have captured the ID here. Similarly, we should be doing it in the delete book method. Okay, so I will just write the method and then we will do the annotation changes. All right, so I will just say return new response entity, okay, and then book deleted successfully, all right, and HTTP code. Fine, and now we should be annotating it with delete mapping. So with delete mapping, what should I do? / within curly braces, I will say book ID, all right. And here, how this book ID will be captured? Here in this book ID, we should be writing annotation path variable, all right. So what we have done, we have created a controller layer structure. Okay, so all methods are exposed here. Get, put, post, delete, all 4 methods along with get all. Okay. Now let us quickly test our controller layer and then we will quickly move forward to build the database and service layers. Now let me quickly bring up the application. All right. So you can see in the logs, my application is up and running. All right. So let me just open the Postman. Okay. So here is a Postman window. I will just add a new request here. Localhost colon 8080 / what is the request URI we have given? We have given, where is that? Yeah. Bookstore. Okay. I'll just give bookstore / okay, and I'm just going to put a get request here, so I will just say send. So all 3 dummy data, Java, MongoDB, Spring Boot, these 3 books we have added, so we have got all the 3 things here. So what we have tested our get all books. Okay, now let us go ahead and test get book with the help of book ID. So we should be ideally getting this message. Okay, so I will just say bookstore /ID. Let's say I am just giving 1. Okay, so the moment I will say 1 here and get method is selected, so it will call get books method. All right, so I will just say send book found 1 because book number 1 we have given. Likewise, if I will give 2, should be able to see book found 2. All right, fine. Now let us check our create API. So in create books, what we have given, just a / and post mapping. So we should be getting book created. All right. So now I will be changing the method to post. Okay, and there should not be any ID as such. So with the request mapping, we should proceed. I will say send. So what message I have got? Book created. All right. And you can notice here 200. Okay. Request successful. All right. So similarly, if I would like to check my update API, what should I do? I will just call the put method. Okay. With the / here after bookstore. And we should be getting book updated message. All right. So here, instead of post, I will be selecting put. Okay, and request URL will remain same, and I will say send. What message I have got this time? Book updated. All right, so my update method is also properly exposed and working fine. Now the last one, delete. So let us check delete. So for delete, what should we do? We should pass a number, a book ID in the request URL, and we should be able to get the value here, book deleted successfully. Okay, and if you want, you can concatenate the book ID here. So I will just say plus book ID so that we can verify this book ID is properly captured here or not with the help of this path variable annotation. Okay, so I have done the changes. We'll save, and because of dev tools, integration, I am not restarting the server, it is getting auto restarted. Okay, you can notice it here. What it says restarting due to one class path changes. Okay, graceful shutdown and then restarting. Okay, so this is done automatically because of my DevTools library which we have integrated. All right, so now let us come back to Postman, and here instead of put I will choose method delete, and here in the bookstore, let's say I'm just giving 1 and I would say send. So book deleted successfully and the number is printed as 1. All right, so my CRUD is exposed. All 4 REST APIs are working fine. So what we have done, we have created controller layer, and now next step we will be creating database or repository layer. All right, so now let us start creating the database layer. So for that, what we will be doing, we will be first creating the entity. Okay, so entity will be going as it is to the database and will be retrieved back. Okay, so for that I will just say new Java class. So we will be choosing record here because record are Java immutable classes and are used for plain data transfers. All right, so let me just give the name here, entity dot book. Okay, so inside this I will be giving all the fields name which I would like to store in the database. Okay, so I will just say string book ID. Okay, then the string name, then the string price. Okay, the string author and the string description. All right, oh my bad. Okay, so these many fields I would like to store in the database, so all those field names I have given here. That's it, right? So for Java record I just need to give the field names here and rest will be taken care. All right, so all the essential getter will be auto generated internally. Okay, so my entity class is created. So next step is, let us create the DTO. DTOs are data transfer objects which will be used to transfer the data via REST APIs. Okay, all right, so I will just choose record and will say here DTO dot book DTO. All right, so for now I'll be using all the fields whatever we are using here in our entity in the book DTO. So I will just copy paste. Okay, so my DTO is also created. Now the next step is, since entities will be talking to the database and DTOs will be talking directly over REST API, so they should be able to communicate with each other. So I should be creating some mapping mechanism so that they can be converted from DTO to book or book to DTO. All right, so for that I will be creating a mapper. So I will just call it as mapper dot book mapper. Okay, what is the purpose of this class? This will be helping us to convert DTO to entity or entity to DTO. All right, so inside this I will be creating two methods. One is to DTO, another is to entity. Okay, so I will just say public static book DTO. Okay, and I will call it as to DTO. What it should accept? It should accept as book entity. Okay, fine. So I have imported the book class which we have created. Okay, and inside this what I will be doing, I will be just writing a conversion logic. Okay, so I will just say book DTO because this is what I want in return. I will call the variable as book DTO is equal to new book DTO, and inside this what I'll be doing, I'll be extracting details from entity and filling in here. Okay, so book dot book ID. Okay, book dot name, okay, book dot author, book dot description. I think we have missed the price thing, right? So I will just say book dot price. Okay, so let us just check. ID, name, price, author, description, all these details. ID, name, price, author, description. Cool. Yeah, so let me do a little formatting. Yeah, and where is, yes, so now what will I do? I will just return this book DTO. Fine. So what we have done, we have received book entity, and with the help of this book entity we have converted it to book DTO, and book DTO is returned. Similarly, I'll be writing logic for to entity. Okay, so public static book entity we should be returning, okay, to, and what this method name will be, to entity. Okay, and in this to entity what I should be passing is book DTO, because this time what I am doing, I am converting from book DTO to entity. Okay, so book DTO. All right, and here what I should be doing, I should be returning book. So book, new book, and here I should be extracting all details from book DTO. Okay, so I will just say book DTO dot book ID, comma, book DTO dot name, comma, book DTO dot price, comma, book DTO dot author, and one more field, book DTO dot description. All right, so all 5 fields we have filled in. Okay, let me fix up this indentation. Yeah, now looks good. Fine, so we have created a book object from book DTO, and we should be returning this. Okay, what will I do? I will just say return book. So I have created 2 mapper classes. So now whenever I am getting book DTO from REST API, and further I would like to convert that to entity, I will be using this to entity method. And when I am getting entity back from the database and I want to send it to the controller layer and further via REST API, so I will be using to DTO method to convert it to book DTO. All right, so all 3 mappers we have created. Now the next step is, in my database layer I should be creating a repository. Okay, so repository layer is the main responsible layer to talk to the database. So what I should be doing here, I will just say Java class, okay, and book repository will be the interface. Okay, so I'll just say repository, okay, dot book repository. All right, and then hit enter. So now what I am going to do, I am going to create a book repository which will be directly talking to the database, and here the database is MongoDB. So this book repository interface should be extending to another interface which is already provided to us by Spring Boot, that is MongoRepository. All right, so MongoRepository will be responsible to talk to the database for our application when I will do this. Okay, so in MongoRepository what I will be doing, I will be just giving the entity as book, and second thing what it is asking, see, it is asking for the type of the object which we have given as book, because my entity is book, and second is ID field. Okay, so my ID field data type, book ID we are taking, so ID field data type we are taking it as a string. Okay, so I have given it as a string. Let me just import this book entity. All right. So we have created book repository, which is extending to MongoRepository. Okay. And let me just show you this MongoRepository also, what is there. So what MongoRepository is containing directly the insert methods and find all methods. Okay. And MongoRepository is further extending to list CRUD repository. Okay. And you can notice all these part of the Spring framework data. Okay. So all this belongs to the Spring data. Okay. And list CRUD repository, what it is having directly save all and find all methods, and it is further extending to CRUD repository. Okay. Which is again part of Spring framework data. Okay. So all these layers are responsible directly to talk to the database, simplifying developers' lives. So you need not to write the entire internal JDBC logic to connect explicitly to the database and do the stuffs. Rather, these layers are taking care of many such stuffs for the developers. So inside CRUD repository, you can see many database operational methods are written. Okay. And which is further extending to repository. So inside repository, this is the interface finally talking to the database layer. All right. So let me just close it. All these classes. All right. So now we are back to book repository, which we are writing for our project. So default methods, whatever are given by MongoRepository or list CRUD repository or CRUD repository, you can directly use them as it is. If you don't want to have a specific method, just call those method as it is. Okay. So in this demonstration, I will show you both the stuffs. I will be writing some custom methods here. Okay. And I will also be using some already given methods. So both examples we will be covering in this session. All right. So stay tuned, watch the session till the end so that you are not missing upon on any of the core concepts. One more thing I would like to say, there are many other Spring Boot sessions available on the channel. Details are getting displayed on the screen right now, wherein I have used database as MySQL and explained all those things in detail. If you are looking for MySQL database connectivity, you can very well go ahead, watch those sessions. All right. So let us come back to book repository, and herein, first of all, I will be writing a simple method called find by book ID, because it is a specific one. It's the custom one. I am having find all methods, find methods, but specifically find by book ID is not available because it is a specific need. So I will be building a custom method for that. All right. What I'll be doing, I'll be writing that method here itself. So find by book ID, what am I expecting that method should return? The book entity, obviously, because I am fetching for books. And then I will say find book by book ID. All right. And in this, I should give the book ID what I am looking for. Okay. So this is the method, and specifically I should write a query parameter here because that is how it will work. Query. Okay. And in this query, this is the specific mechanism. You should be writing the query like this. Okay. And inside this, in the curly braces, you will be writing book ID. The name you should be giving as it is. Okay. And question mark 0. Question mark 0 indicates the first parameter. Okay. Closing curly braces, single quote should be given here. All right. This book ID is the entity field which we are storing in the database, and this question mark 0 is the first parameter of the method argument. Okay. So what method I am writing? Find book by book ID, and in the query annotation I am writing the field name and then question mark 0, that means first parameter of this. All right. That's how you should be defining. Okay. So one custom method I have given as find book by book ID. If I want to query get all, that means find all books. So find all, as we have seen, is already available. So I am not going to write that. Okay. Another custom method I should be writing that I want to update my book basis on the certain field, a particular field in the book I would like to update, right? So this kind of requirement if I have, what will I do? I will write a custom update method. Okay. So for custom update method, what will I do? I will just say update. Let's say I want to update book name by book ID. Okay. This is my need, this is my requirement. And for that I should be giving book ID as well as book name, right? So I will give book ID. Okay. And then I will give book name here. Okay. So find basis on the book ID and what to update? Name of that particular book. All right. So for that I have two requirements. I need to query and then I need to update. So what do? I will just say query, right? Same way I'll be writing the query, or I will show you one more method. I will just say value. Okay. And in double quotes, opening and closing curly braces, and then in the single quote you should write book ID. Okay, single quote close, and then colon, then opening and closing curly braces, and inside this the condition. How will I write the condition here? I will say $eq colon question mark 0. All right. So this is one more way to query. Okay. So I have showed you both the ways. You can use whichever you want. Okay. Let me give a proper spacing so that it is more readable. All right. And then the update query. So basis on the query, we have found the book. Now I need to update a particular field. How do I do that? I have update annotation, and in this annotation I should give pipeline. So this is how you should be giving it: opening and closing curly braces, and inside that double quotes. Inside double quotes you should write opening and closing curly braces again, and then inside single quote you should say $set. Okay, and then colon, and then one more curly braces, and inside that in the single quote you should write the field name which you want to update. So book entity field name is name, so that is where I have given name colon $1. So right, so that's how you should be writing. And what is my $1? $1 is the first parameter, right, of method argument, and $0 is this parameter. Okay, so 0th parameter and first parameter. Okay, that's how you should be writing. Let me remove this extra line. Okay, so this is one more custom method I have written. Okay, because for update you must have noticed there is no direct method is provided, so I will have to write a custom method. So one example I will be showing you: update book name by book ID. So basis on the book ID I'll be updating the book name, and this is how you should be writing for Mongo. Okay, now for delete, if I want to delete all the books, one shot method is given. Okay, if I want to delete book by particular book ID, I should be writing a custom method. I can delete book by book name, book ID, anything you want. I will be just showing you how to delete a book by book ID. Okay, so for that what I will be doing, I will be just saying void delete book by book ID. Okay, and here I should be writing book ID. All right, and here I should be writing the annotation delete query. Fine. The moment you will give delete query annotation, it will pick up this ID. Whatever method argument you will be giving, it will be picking that ID and will fetch and delete that particular book. All right, so these three custom methods we have created. Other than these three custom methods, we will also be using some of the given inbuilt methods by MongoRepository or CRUD repositories. find all or insert kind of methods. All right. So we have built database or repository layer. Now the next step is we will be building the service layer wherein all the business logic would go in. All right. So let us create the service layer. I will just say new Java class. Okay. And first I will be creating a service interface and then its implementation. Okay. So that's how it structurally works. So I will just say service dot book service. Okay, and I will select interface. This has to be interface. All right. So book service interface is created. Now I will start writing all the methods, all the CRUD methods here, for which we will be writing implementation. All right. So first I will write the getBook method, public, and what the getBook method should return, it should return book data transfer object. Okay, so let me just import it and I will call it as get book, and it should have one argument as a string book ID. All right, so this is one method signature which I would need. Another one is public list of book DTO. Okay, and what it should be, get all books, because these are the methods which we created in our controller layer. So same method service implementation we would write, and then we will restructure our controller layer. All right, so I will import list interface. Okay, then the next method is create book. So I will call it as public. What it should return, the book DTO, whatever book we are creating, its DTO object we will be returning, and the method name will remain create book. What it should accept, in REST API we are getting book DTO, right? So I will call it as book DTO. Okay. Similarly, I will write the signatures for update method. So updated book DTO I will be returning. So it should return book DTO update book. Okay. And in repository, let us check what update we have written. Update book name by book ID. Okay. So similar kind of name let us give here. Update book name. Okay. And inside this we will write book DTO. Okay, because this is what we are getting from the REST API. Okay, and one more we will be writing, that is delete. So after deleting we don't get anything actually. So after deleting we don't get anything back from the repository. We can check here void. Okay, so I will just say void delete. What we have done, we said delete book by book ID. So similar kind of name we should give here, delete book by book ID. All right, and we should write book ID here. Okay, so I'll just save this interface. And since we have written interface, we should be writing its implementation also. Where should we do the implementation for this? Inside service folder, I will just say Java class, and I will say impl, which is the indication of implementation folder. And then I will say book service impl. All right. So since it is implementation of book service interface, so it should say implements book service. All right. So since we are saying it should implement book service interface, and book service interface has 5 methods, none of them are implemented yet. That is where it is giving me the error here. All right. So I will quickly say implement methods just to get rid of from the errors. So we have got all the default implementation here in place, and we will do the necessary changes here. Before that, let me just wire book repository. Okay. because book repository is the one which is talking to the database, and in service layer we will be implementing all the logic to talk to the database and return the things to the controller layer. So that is the reason book repository should be wired here. I will just call it as public book service simple. Basically I am writing the constructor for this, and in that I am passing book repository. All right. So this dot book repository is equal to book repository. All right. So now book repository is wired here in book service simple, and I'll be able to now use it. Okay. So let us first implement get book. Okay. And from where we will be fetching the data from the book repository, and we want to find get book basis on the book ID. So if you remember, we have implemented find book by book ID custom method here. So this is what we will be calling here in our service implementation. All right. And what this method will return, it will return the book entity, but I am supposed to return book DTO, so I should be doing the conversion also here. All right. So first of all, let us get the book, okay, with the help of book repository. So find book by book ID, and here in what book ID I'll be passing? I'll be passing this book ID. Okay. Let me just import the book. Okay. So we are able to get the book basis on the given book ID. Okay. Now the next step is we will be converting this to book DTO. Okay. So I will just say book DTO is equal to, we have created book mapper. Okay. So I will just call book mapper dot to DTO, and inside this I will be passing the book entity which we are able to fetch from the database, and this book DTO we should be returning. All right. So we have implemented our get book method. Now the next step is get all books. So get all books, we have not implemented any custom methods. Why? Because find all is already available. See? Okay. So inside get all books, what I'll be doing, I'll be just calling find all and converting it to book DTO list, and will be returning. All right. So first of all, I should have list of books. Okay. We will call book repository dot find all. Okay. So whatever number of books are available, it will return all the books. Okay. And let us now convert it to book DTO. For that, I will just say list of book DTO. Okay. Book DTO list I will be creating, and I will just say new array list. Okay. Now to this book DTO list, I will iterate this books, number of books, whatever we have got from book repository, and we should be adding all those converted books to book DTO list. All right. So I will just say for each. Okay. Books. Okay. And inside this, I will be simply calling my mapper, and will be adding it to book DTO list. So I will just say book DTO list dot add, and inside this I will call book mapper dot to DTO, and here I will pass book. Okay. So this book will be passed here, and we will be getting the converted DTO, and which will be added to the book DTO list. Okay. So finally, when my book DTO list is ready, that will be returned here. Okay. So by this way, we will be able to fetch all the books and return it via REST API. All right. The next method is create book. For create book also, we have not created any custom method. We will be simply calling insert method. Okay. Which is already given. So insert method we will be calling, and that returns the entity. Okay. So I will just say book is equal to book repository, okay, dot insert, and herein I can simply pass the entity. So since I have DTO, so I should convert and send the entity to the database. Okay, so how will I do that? I will just say book mapper dot to entity, and here I will say book DTO. Okay, so what is happening here? Book mapper dot to entity will convert book DTO to book, and that will be inserted in the book repository, and after successful inserting the record, book repository will return the book here. Okay, and now we should be returning the converted DTO back. All right, so I can directly call book mapper dot to DTO book. All right, whatever book we are receiving here, we are converting it to DTO and sending back. Okay, so my create method is implemented. So let us write update book name. Okay, so for update book name, if you remember, we have created a custom method here, update book name by book ID. So we will be calling this. Okay, so what we'll be doing, we will call book repository dot update book name by book ID. Okay, inside this we will call book DTO dot book ID. Okay, that should be my first parameter, and second parameter is book DTO dot name. Okay, so update book name by book ID expects two parameters. One is ID, one is book DTO dot book ID, I mean book ID, and another one is the book name. All right, so what it will do, it will update, and since update doesn't return anything, but if I want to return the complete DTO, so I need to fetch it back and send that DTO so that the confirmation can be done whether book is really updated or not. All right, so for that, what I will do, I will create a book entity, and what I'll do, I'll simply call book repository dot find book by book ID. So with this, what we have done, with this book ID, we have updated the book, and I will again fetch with that book ID so that I can get a confirmation whether book is successfully updated or not. All right, now we should return this entity converted to DTO. All right, so what I will be doing, book mapper dot to DTO, and then I'll pass book. Okay, so this update method is also done, and now next step is, let us write delete book by book ID. Okay, so for delete book by book ID, I just need to call the delete custom method which we have created. What we have done, we have created delete book by book ID, and we will pass book ID as a parameter. Okay, so I'll be implementing it here. We'll just call book repository dot delete book by book ID, and we'll pass the book ID here. All right, so since it is returning void, no need to return anything. Okay, so all 5 methods are ready at the service layer. Now the next step is to modify our controller layer so that it can actually work with these methods, talk to database, return the real database responses to the end user. All right, so now let us open our book controller. Okay, so in this book controller, first of all, what we will be doing, we will be wiring the service, because with the help of service, it is able to communicate with the database, get back all the logical responses. All right, so I will just say book service. Okay, and we'll create book controller constructor, and herein we'll pass book service, and inside this dot book service is equal to book service. Alright, so we have successfully wired book service here in the book controller. Okay, now the next step is let us modify our getBook method. So for that, what I'll be doing, I'll be calling the book service getBook method. Okay, and what does it return? It will return book DTO. So I will take it in the book DTO is equal to book service dot get book ID, the first method. All right, and herein I will pass the book ID whatever I am getting from the get mapping here. Okay, and what we should do, we should return this book DTO here instead of a string response. Fine. The moment I did that, it is showing me an error, required a string, but I am providing book DTO. This is because of this. So in the return response entity data type, I should also change string to book DTO. All right. So now this book ID get mapping should be working fine. Okay, we'll test all these things in a while. Let us first do the necessary changes here. All right. Now let us modify our get all books. So it should return book DTO. So instead of a string, I will call it as book DTO here. Okay. And I will now remove this mocked response. And what will I do? I will just call book service get all method. What does it return? It will return list of book DTO. Okay. Book DTO list is equal to book service dot get all books. Okay, just now we have written all these things. Now we should pass this book DTO list to return data type. Okay, so book DTO list instead of the mocked one. Okay, and we'll save it. So our get all books is also ready. Okay, now the next step is we will do the changes for create books. Okay, so now for create books, what we'll do, it returns book DTO. So I will just say book DTO is equal to book service dot create book. Okay, and herein it will be expecting a book DTO. Okay, so ideally we should receive book DTO from the request, not this one, book DTO. Okay, and what change I should do here? I should be actually receiving book DTO in create books method. How do we do that? Let us do the changes for that. So I will receive book DTO here. Okay, and from where that book DTO will travel from the request, it should come in request body. Okay, so from request body, book DTO will be received. Let us change this return variable name from book DTO to, let's say, book DTO 1. Okay, so this book DTO will be passed to create book method of book service. After successful creation of the book, this create book method will return a book DTO, which we are capturing in book DTO 1, or yeah, let's say book DTO 1. And then this book DTO 1 should be returned here, which indicates this book is created successfully. All right, and here also the return data type should be book DTO. Okay, so I hope this part is also clear. With the help of create books method, we should be able to successfully create books in the database. Okay, we'll test all these things in a while. Let us just do the necessary changes and we will do all the testings one by one. All right, now the next step is put mapping. So for put mapping also, we should be calling our book service, okay, dot update book name, and in that it is expecting the complete book DTO. So we should be passing book DTO. Okay, and from where this book DTO should come, it should come from here, like we were getting in create books. Okay, so I will say book DTO, book DTO. Okay, and from where this book DTO should travel, it should come from request body. All right, so same things. And since this update book name is returning book details, so we should receive it in the book detail. Okay, book detail 1, let's say. Okay, and this is something which we should be returning in the response entity. Change the data type here as well. Okay, so now my put mapping update book is ready. So this is update book name basis on the book ID. All right, and now the last method is delete mapping. So we will do the changes here also. So how do we delete? We will just simply call book service dot delete book by book ID. Okay, and the book ID is coming from the path variable book ID. All right, this one is coming here, and we can return a simple response, book deleted successfully, and we can print the book ID. If you want to put in more logic, you can try finding the book and then say book deleted successfully, up to you. Okay, so in this demonstration I'm doing it till here only. I'm just deleting the book and printing a successful response, sending a successful response back to the end user. All right, so with this my controller layer is also modified, ready. Let me just remove the unused imports. Okay, so my controller layer is ready. Now let us bring up the application and see if things are coming up successfully or not. So let me just click on this and let us check the logs, what all we are getting. So it's giving me some error. So let us try to do a little debugging. Okay. Oh, so it's giving me, okay, good, that debugging is also getting covered in this session. So what it is telling me, book control required a bean of type book service that could not be found. But you must be thinking we have created book service, right? So let us see book service simple. Yeah, so that is the issue. What we have done, we have not annotated our service layer with service annotation, and that is something essential to do, because without this service annotation it won't detect it as service and will not be able to wire this bean successfully. All right, so now let us again try to bring up the application and see what happens. So this time my application is successfully up and running. It is saying Tomcat started at port 8080. Started bookstore application. Mongo client is also fine. Container is healthy. All right, so everything looks good. So now let us try to test our application. All right, how do we test the application? With the help of Postman. Okay, so here is the Postman. Let us try to do get all. Okay, so localhost colon 8080 bookstore and method as get and send. What am I getting here? You can see empty bracket because we have not yet created any data in the database. Okay, now let us try to create something. Okay, so let me just say post. URL will remain as it is. I will come to the request body, select form as raw and type as JSON here. Many other types are there, but over REST we are talking with the help of JSON data. And herein, in this JSON, what I am supposed to give inside curly braces, all the 5 fields what we have created in our entity. Okay, so what all we have created, let us just check. So in book detail, book ID, name, price, author and description, and all 5 fields are string fields. All right, so let us try to create data for this. Okay, so I will say in book ID colon string, so B1 is the book ID, comma, in double quotes, name. So I am supposed to give a book name here. Let's say Java. Okay, Then another field is price, author, and then description. Okay, so I will give price. So let's say book price is 1500. Okay, and then author, birth dates. Okay, and description, let's say I will say it's an excellent book. Okay, so this is the data I have created. Let me just copy this data. Okay, and I will just say send. I am getting the same book response back. That means this book is successfully created. Let me create one more book. I will call that book as B2, name MongoDB. Okay, price 1000, author, probably I'm just writing publication here, O'Reilly, and excellent book for no SQL DB. Okay, so this is another new data I'm passing, and I will just say send. So I'm getting this same book response back. That means this book is successfully created, and here you can see the HTTP response is 200. Okay, fine. Now let us query it with the help of getAll. Okay, so I will just change the method here as get and will say send. Now what I am getting in response, earlier if you remember we were getting empty brackets. This time I am getting 200. Okay, and inside the bracket book ID B1 and then book ID B2. Fine, cool. Now let us test our update. Okay, so what we have done, before that let us query it basis on a specific book ID. Let's say I am querying B1. Okay, get bookstore B1, send. I am able to get book B1 detail specifically. So what we have done, we have tested three methods: create books, get all books, and get. Okay, now next we will check our update method. Okay, so let me try to update this book B1. Okay, and name updates we can do. So I will just take this as my request body. Okay, and in the name, instead of Java, I will write Java black book. Okay, so I'm just updating name from Java to Java black book. So below you can see earlier it was B1 Java, and after updation we should be able to get B1 Java black book. Okay, let me just change the method here to put. Okay, in the request URI of put, let us check what we have given: update book and it's /. That's it. Okay, so here in Postman we will give method as put, and we will remove this B1 from here, and here in the request body we are giving the updated field name. Okay, Java black book. I will hit send. Here now in the response you can notice what we are getting: book ID as B1 and name as Java black book. That means this book name is updated. Okay, so I will again try to do a get for this also, so that I can be doubly sure. So I will just say bookstore B1, send. What am I getting? B1 Java black book. Cool. We have just now tested update also, and the last method to test is delete. Okay, so let us check delete request URI. So delete book, and delete mapping is / then book ID. So basis on the book ID it should be able to delete the book. Okay, so in the Postman I will change the method to delete, and here let us delete book B1 this time. Okay, so I should say send. So So what am I getting? Book deleted successfully. Okay, and after that it is printing book ID also, B1. Now let us try to get this book. Let us see whether we are able to get this or not. So I have changed the method to get and bookstore B1 sent. So this time some error I am getting because it's not able to fetch the book in the database. And as of now in our project, we have not done the exception handling. So I am getting the direct internal server error. Okay. In the subsequent videos, I'll be covering exception handling with the Spring Boot 3.4 and with MongoDB. So therein you should be able to get a proper error response, a user-friendly message here, not this one. Okay. Fine. So let us do a get all again. This time I should be able to get only one book. Okay. So I have removed book B1 here. I will just say get bookstore send. I am able to get only one book, which is B2. Okay. Now, if you want to check all these things in the database, although whatever responses I am getting here, if this data is not saved, I am not able to get it every time. But still, if you have a question in mind that you would like to see the database also, so what you can do, I will just tell you very quickly about MongoDB Compass. MongoDB Compass is the GUI dashboard for MongoDB, therein you can see all the data, whatever you are playing with in the MongoDB. All right. Okay, so I will just open MongoDB Compass, which is installed at my machine. If you would like to install, I will quickly show you the website. So herein you can type MongoDB Compass. Okay, and download now. So come to MongoDB Compass UI, and herein you can select your machine. Okay, so Mongo for a Mac OS ARM64 or 64-bit. So this is for latest Mac M1, and this one is for older ones in which you have Intel chips. And for Windows machine, these are the options which are given. So depending upon your machine, you can choose the platform and package and download. Just execute, it gets installed very smoothly at your system. All right. Since I have already installed MongoDB Compass at my system, I will quickly open it to show you. So here is the MongoDB Compass GUI. Okay. So for creating connection, what all you need to do, you can give any name here. Let's say bookstore app. Okay. And the connection string here 2020 in the authentication, username root. You can give the password and then authentication database as admin. Okay, save and connect. Okay, it is connected. Inside my database, you can see the book entities created with B2 MongoDB. See B2 MongoDB, price and description, author, everything you are able to see here properly. Okay. Let us create one more entity via Postman and see whether it is coming here or not. So in the Postman, I will just say post. Okay, here book ID. Since we have already deleted B1, so I will just give B3. Okay, I will say Java good book. Okay, price 500. Bird baits, let it be, and excellent book. Okay, so with B3 I am going to create another book. I will say send. Okay, book is successfully created, and I will now say get all. So I am able to see two books, B2 and B3. Now let us check whether we are able to see these two books in MongoDB Compass or not. So here in MongoDB Compass, so I will just say refresh, and I am able to see now B2 as well as B3 here. Okay, so your data is successfully saved in MongoDB. So we have tested this also. Let me know in the comment section if you would like me to do a complete session on MongoDB dedicatedly. Okay.
Congratulations, you have successfully completed your Spring Boot MongoDB project. If you have any doubts, anything you want to discuss or ask, Ask your doubts in the comment section below, and I would also request you to tag the timeline which you found the most useful. Alright, please share the session and channel details with your friends, family and colleagues so that we grow more stronger together. See you in the next session. Bye for now.